So this is for the CS125 final project. I'm Matt Stegman.
I'm Jonathan Lin.
And this is our game, The Brave Archer. We made this using Unity software. And as you see here, it's pretty much a bare bones game for the most part, as the timelines for it were pretty short. But for the most part, if we go over to the UI screen, we can kind of start and see some of the UI functions that we started with on our main menu. So that would be under our Assets tab. And we load our first scene, which is the menu. So if we click our demo button here, we can see that some of the first things on our UI screen, first of all, looking at the quit button, we can see that it has a quick confirm screen that asks yes or no, and a yes would close the app if it were in an Android app, but since we don't have a phone to emulate on, down in the bottom right corner it will display text saying closed app, and hitting no will bring you back to the main menu. And then hitting the play button will load you into the main game. So something we do with the main game here is, so we have two joysticks. The bottom left works for movement, which works with the player animation, and the bottom right works with shooting, so we can just do a quick demo of those both. The shooting shoots arrows out of the archer in the direction that it's held. This would work with touchscreen, but again, we don't have a phone to work with. And then the movement, the art and animation were all done by Jonathan here, our wonderful Picasso editor.
Thank you. I'll explain that later once we showcase the program.
Yeah, sure. And then in the top right, we have a score screen that works with every enemy killed. And the back button in the top left will also bring you back to the main menu here. So we can go ahead and look at some of our scripts here. We have kind of all of them labeled down here. We have about 7 or 8 scripts. A bunch for enemy movement, player movement, shooting, and some of the buttons as well. So if we can go into our tabs here, we can look at
Let's
some of the
look
scripts.
at the gameplay, the character movement first. So as you can see, like there are a lot of game objects we create. So this variable is for the errors. Whenever you're trying to shoot the errors, so it would instantiate this variable and create it. And once the arrow hits the end, it's gonna be destroyed, which is gonna be here. So it's gonna destroy the arrows once it hits the end. So this whole method, it's shooting. So so when the aim magnitude, we use the joysticks and horizon and vertical here. So it's going to be stored in the vector 3am. So if the magnitude am is bigger than 0, it's going to shoot the arrows. Do you want to talk about the
Yeah, so some of the collisions here. I did most of the coding on the collisions, the interaction between objects. This little snippet of code here, basically, when the player collides with an enemy, it just sets a game over screen, and the player will be killed, and pretty much all movement on screen will stop. So if we go over to our enemy spawner tab here, we can kind of show off how the enemies are spawned. If we set our spawn allowed to true, we can kind of show how enemies spawn in the real game. So basically how enemies are spawned, there's 3 spawn points set outside of the screen view, and it's pretty much chosen at random times and which spawn point they'll be viewed at, or where they'll be spawned at. So if we go back to our game, we can kind of show how enemies work, basically. Yep, so if we hit our play button, we can see that enemies spawn. Hitting them with arrows, of course, will increase your score and delete the enemies, and of course getting hit by an enemy will result in a game over. And you can hit a restart or menu button. The restart will simply reload the game, and the menu will take you back to the main menu as always. So this was coded in C#, which Unity uses for all of its projects. It's a little bit different. It was something that was hard to do for us because we were used to Java pretty much all semester. I think some hardships we had, especially were with the camera working. Unity uses 2D cameras, which are displayed over on our game tab if we look at the scene. So if we look at in progress, every scene has a main camera. We had some layering issues with that. And originally we had implemented a crosshair function that we couldn't get to quite work. So I think for the most part, this is a pretty big success on our part. Matt, myself, I did a lot of the UI designing and a lot of the object interacting code, while Jonathan worked more on the movement, the shooting, and all the artwork for the game. So, yeah.
Yeah. So just basically show you, just gonna show you like how the animation is done. So if we like open the file character animation here, what I did is I create a bunch of characters, including different movements. So for this row, for this first column to here, it's basically the character's movement to running to left, and this part is running to right. So what I did is like basically draw the every postures of a movement in the movement, and then try to like run it so the characters can like move in that way.
Yeah, one last thing I want to mention before we end the video here is Unity has something called an asset store, and I want to give a big thanks to Text Mesh Pro and the joystick packs in the asset store. They helped us out with our project here. As you saw on our play screen, the joysticks, it was actually an asset pack downloaded. They gave the animation, and they gave some basic scripts for the joysticks used. So basically it helped us animate the joysticks there and make them a little bit functional. So we can bring up this pack real quick. Shout out to these guys, joystick pack up here. And also one more thing is we use something called Text Mesh Pro, as Unity doesn't really have good text functions. So we use Text Mesh Pro to make the text on the UI look a little bit more prettier. So that's kind of some of the more software libraries that we used.
Yep. Thank you guys for watching this video, and
Goodbye.
bye.